So yeah, our country is over consuming way too much than we need. So we need to cut that down.
Yeah. And then we've got lack of human resources for fruit and veg, so that also connects to like the importation side of things. We've got we're at corruption because the government prioritises funding for things that we don't need, such as oil companies and things like that, as opposed to eco-friendly alternatives. And then we've got even the banking industry, which obviously we rely on. They support oil companies and fossil fuel companies, which obviously is not great at all.
So like Barclays Bank, like after the Paris Agreement, so between 2016 and 2020, they funded like $144 billion in fossil fuel industries. So that's just like one bank, like in 4 years after the Paris Agreement. So that's just like, they're the worst bank in Europe, I think. So yeah, all of our banking in the UK basically relies on the fossil fuel industry, which you don't realise. So.
Yeah, and we've got lack of workers as well, and as people from the UK or anywhere else would have known, we had a shortage of lorry drivers even due to Brexit, so we couldn't have fuel and like bread and stuff like that, which obviously is not great. And then we don't have enough renewable, I guess, or we haven't invested enough into renewable alternatives, as we said, so the UK is planning to fund 42 more oil fields. That is yet to be approved. We also said e-waste. I know everyone has phones and stuff like that, but it's like, how do you recycle that? And is it recyclable? And can it be recycled? Is a good question. And that kind of relates to also extracting minerals such as like lithium and stuff in African countries and stuff. And that's the technology side of things.
There's a lot of like child labour linked to like mining. Is it lithium?
Yeah, lithium.
Yeah, for batteries.
Yeah.
There's like child labour, so exploiting people. Yeah. Solutions slash practices. Do you want to go first or one each? Some of the practices or solutions is like there's like lots of people like making like more noise about it and like so like Exit Rebellion, there's lots of protests in London at the moment, trying to like raise a platform to talk about how we can each change society and things like that. They've also introduced a climate change GCSE, which is a bit like people are like, oh, that's going to be not that helpful. But basically to raise education with young people, having like a whole GCSE dedicated. So GCSE is like an exam you do in the 16, and that's meant to educate young people about climate change issues.
Also, the government declared climate emergencies
A few years ago,
one of the initiatives as well is electric cars.
So young.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, how do I say so bad? Sorry. I've got emissions like using carbon calculations. So like when you buy clothes, you can have like a measure of like how much carbon or water that's used in food, so you can like be more aware about your like carbon footprint and consumption. So like counteract consumerism.
There's a point in water conservation here. Hydroponics.
Well,
you start yeah, to come. Do you know what that says?
So green tech, connecting.
It's basically the internet of like green energy and tech and working towards that, because that's what we need in order for a sustainable future. And tech is on the rise, so hopefully more of that.
Again, another point in water conservation.
Yeah, that's yet to come. Fabric pots.
Fabric pots, for example, an initiative to have woven fabric pots made of recycled plastic material, which is very good versus regular pots. Okay.
So like biodiversity, so talking about like having more pollinating flowers and things, so there's more like bees can thrive and that kind of thing. So like there might be wilding areas in the UK and having like film strips of like biodiversity so they can pollinate.
Next step is education.
Education, more awareness.
Business, enabling business.
Yeah, it's less about like individual change. I mean, like realizing that it's more about the government, and, like big oil companies and big like Shell and all those kind of things. More about blaming them rather than being like, oh, we use a plastic straw. So being aware of like what's actually causing the climate crisis, not individuals, and making people feel guilty about that.
Yeah, so we have a point as well on conflict of interest. This is the case with most companies. And we have decarbonizing the economy. And maybe the
And
last
then
one.
water.
I have to talk about water because water goes into everything. It goes into food. You know, water is energy, one of the main components of energy besides gas and electricity. And you know, there's something really simple which I have to say because water conservation with respect to an individual's output as a unit of waste, it can be reduced so much. You know, and the average, for example, the average shower that a person takes in 10 minutes is 75 liters. Okay. And you can really reduce that, for example, by getting water efficient shower heads, which basically reduce the nozzles and also introduce air into the shower head to reduce water consumption that way. You can change the aerators on the faucets, the sinks and the taps around you to reduce water usage by 90%. And you can also install what is known as balloons into, for example, flushing tanks of toilets to reduce the amount of water you need to, flush down. So. And that's just from an individual point of view. Then we can talk about agriculture as well. We can talk about hydroponics as a means of reducing water for growing food. Hydroponics reduces 90% water needed for growing crops over traditional irrigation farming on soil. And also there are other water conservation techniques for ground, such as mulching, using pine needles, wood chips, pebbles, stones, as you've probably seen at the airport, lava rocks, clay pellets, so that all keeps the moisture in when it rains, which is especially important for maybe more arid, dry countries to avoid water evaporation. And that's it. I have more to say, but
You're
not
not
enough time
allowed
to
to
say.
Thank you.